A man walks into his office on a Monday morning, laptop bag on his shoulders, deadlines in his head, and there is a quiet distance in his heart from his partner, from his spouse. At home, in his relationship, things have been functional, not broken, but not alive either. Now, this is the starting point for so many workplace infidelity stories. While the world sees a successful professional, what they do not see is a person who is emotionally alone. The very reality of today's growing corporate stress and extramarital affairs at workplaces that no one talks about. Now it begs a question, is it a normal work-life pressure or is it something deeper? The hidden office scandals in India are growing at an exponential rate. And what no one understands is the psychology traps of Indian corporates' affair world. Let us try to understand what is happening beneath the surface. See, at work, it is very different. There is energy, there is movement, urgency. People depend on this man. His ideas are acknowledged. His presence is felt. And then there is someone, a colleague, may not be an extraordinary person, may not be so attractive, but she is present. She listens, not just to respond, but to understand. She laughs at his jokes, not out of politeness, but attentiveness. And slowly, something subtle begins to shift. This is what we call in psychology as the proximity trap. This is where most people misunderstand office romance. They think that it begins with desire, with attraction, with weakness, with people having no conscience. But no, it begins with attention. Because attention is the first language of love. Now they start working together on a project, late night shifts, shared pressure, tense situations, deadlines that feel like war zones, and they are together in this. Now this is the reality of corporate world today, especially of IT sector. Affairs in India are increasing because of the high pressure MNCs and consulting firms that demand so much, and people are together in this. In those moments, they become allies. They are a team, they are partners. There is this phenomenon in psychology where they say that shared stress creates emotional bonding. Even if you see in married life, married couples, people who see tougher times together, they bond more strongly than other couples. You've seen that happening, right? They're like soldiers in a battlefield. People in high pressure work environments feel deeply connected. Not because they truly know each other, no, but because they feel finally understood in that moment. And you know what is the most unfortunate part? It is happening with someone else and not your partner, not with your spouse. This is not intimacy, but it sure feels like it. The brain cannot distinguish between reality, the real connections, and the situational closeness. Cortisol, the stress hormone, binds people together. And dopamine, the reward chemical, reinforces that bond because now you feel happy and you feel excited. And suddenly, what was just teamwork before begins to feel like something more. This person, this guy, starts noticing smaller things which were unnoticeable before. The signs of an office affair are often invisible at first. The way she checks if he's eaten or not, if they're going for lunches together, the way she says that you've got this, and she shows confidence in this person. which was the most missing part in his life. He may or may not be getting this at home. Even if the spouse is supportive and appreciating, she might not be vocal about it. This is the situation in most families. We're not vocal about, we're not appreciating enough. The way this lady, this new office lady, sees his effort, and unknowingly and silently, she begins to fill the space that had been empty for a very long time. At home, he is responsible. At work, he feels recognized and appreciated. And the human mind will always drift towards where he feels more alive. That is basic psychology. We tend to move towards pleasure and away from pain. But the quiet truth is, not all connections are real. Some are just reflections of our own unmet needs. Now days turn into weeks. Conversations move from tasks to sharing personal stories, from emails to late night messages. And there is a name to this kind of a relationship. Nowadays, people call it the work-wife culture, and some would also call it the emotional infidelity at work. And then those interactions moves from messages to silence that feels incomplete without each other. The proximity trap I spoke about earlier. When two people spend enough time together, their brain confuses familiarity with intimacy. Because repetition creates comfort, and comfort creates attachment. But comfort is not the same as connection. Now slowly he begins to compare. At work he feels appreciated, at home he feels expected. At work he is seen, at home he is just assumed to be there and fix things and handle everything. And this comparison is the birthplace of dissatisfaction. Then comes a moment, very small, almost invisible, a message sent a little too late at night, and a reply that lingers a little longer than it should. Long sentences and conversations beyond work, beyond projects. And in that space, a boundary quietly dissolves. There is no warning sign, one doesn't get to know, one is not aware about it. Just a little shift in understanding from we work together to now we understand each other. And that shift is powerfully corrupting, because humans don't fall in love with people. They fall in love with how they feel around a particular person. And at this stage, something else enters. Because this is between two people, this attraction, and hidden from the world, the thrill comes into the picture. The secrecy, the unspoken rule that this must stay hidden. He can get exposed for corporate infidelity, but he ignores the risk because the connection becomes intoxicating. It is beyond his will to stop now. Psychology has a phrase for this. We call this the forbidden fruit effect. We all know when something is hidden, it becomes more desirable. Not because it is better, but just because it is restricted. Secrecy amplifies the emotion. It creates a bubble, and in that bubble, touch to reality is lost. One is lost in imaginative world, a fantasy world, and in that bubble, there are no bills, there are no responsibilities, no unresolved arguments, just two people feeling understood and connected. Or at least they are believing they are. But here's the deeper layer. This is not love. This is escapism. Corporate culture and cheating is often just a way to run away from reality. Instead of Addressing how corporate jobs destroy marriages, the mind creates a parallel world. A world where everything feels easier, it feels lighter and effortless. But anything that feels effortless without responsibility is not real. It is a refuge. It feels like a dream, but that's what it is, not reality, a dream. Now at home, things begin to change very subtly, and he doesn't even get to notice what he's doing. He becomes more distant, less present, not because he wants to hurt anyone, no, but because his emotional energy is now divided. And this is the invisible cost of affairs. They don't just create a new connection, they drain the existing ones, the ones that matter. The spouse at home begins to sense something emotionally. She cannot put it in words, in concrete words, but she sure can sense something is there. Because the body always knows. There is an instinct within us that knows, subconsciously, unconsciously. Conversations feel colder, silence feels louder, and trust begins to crack. Meanwhile, at work, this connection deepens further. But so does the confusion. Because what started as validation now feels like dependency. He tells himself, this is different, this is real, and this is what I was missing all my life. But what he is actually experiencing is just ego validation. To feel desired after feeling invisible is really powerful. It feels like coming alive again. Who would not get intoxicated by that feeling? Who would want to leave that feeling? But it is not love. It is ego being fed. Then comes the most dangerous illusion of all times. Consequence blindness. The belief that this won't get exposed, this is all under control. But we live in a world where nothing stays hidden. In the age of digital footprints, corporate infidelity can get exposed in just one screenshot. People ignore HR policies on office relationships in India until it is too late. They forget how the POSH Act and consensual affairs can intersect, leading to a career-ending investigation when professional boundaries blur. When the truth surfaces, it doesn't just affect two people. It shatters families. Careers collapse. Reputation dissolves. In high-stake hubs like Bangalore, Mumbai, Gurgaon, Delhi, these corporate life secrets can end a decade of hard work in one afternoon. Now, children would carry wounds they never asked for, and for life. Because affairs are not isolated events, they are emotional earthquakes with ripple effects. And yet, if you look deeper, this is not just about morality. Can we just blame this person alone? It is about unmet needs, a need for touch that was never communicated, a need for appreciation that was never expressed, a need for emotional safety that was never created. Because when people feel unseen, they don't stop needing connection. No, they just start looking for it elsewhere. But the uncomfortable truth is, an affair doesn't solve the problem. It only relocates it. Because the same emotional patterns, the same unmet needs will eventually follow, because they have not been resolved from within. Even with this new affair. And what once felt magical begins to feel complicated after a point. And then heaviness comes in. Then it becomes unsustainable. Because relationships built on secrecy cannot survive in reality. The dream has to end one day. It cannot be alive forever. And at some point, there is a collapse. Reality would check in. Either the truth comes out or the person would break within with all that guilt and shame. And in that moment, there comes clarity. It is very painful, but it is equally real. That what he was chasing was never that person, was never that colleague. It was the feeling of being valued, of being alive. And that feeling was never dependent on the other person. So what is the real solution? Not control, not moral policing, but awareness. To recognize that dating a colleague or feeling infatuated at workplace is actually a search for self-worth. Awareness to understand why office affairs happen before you are caught in the web. It requires the courage to address what is missing before the mind finds it elsewhere. Every relationship in a living system, it either grows or it decays. Growth requires effort and it requires conversations, at times vulnerability, and sometimes it also requires therapy. Sometimes it also requires redefining the relationship. But what it never requires is escape, because escape always comes with a cost. Real intimacy is not found in secrecy or extramarital affairs. It becomes something you build consciously, honestly, and with responsibility. Hi, this is Bhavish Ahuja, a mind coach and a therapist. If you are going through something like this and if you are unable to share it with someone else, if you need some more clarity, you can get in touch for one-to-one sessions. You can also buy my book, which is there on Amazon, Becoming the Answer. The link to that would be in the description below. Also, do subscribe to this channel because we have some exciting videos coming up and you can get notified so that you can, nourish yourself with this kind of wisdom. Thank you so much for watching. Let's build this connection. If you have any suggestions, do comment in the comment box below. Also, stay blessed, stay healthy, and catch hold of this wisdom if you can. I shall see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.